Atom-Ick. Sure, okay. Okay, Sid, whatever. I think if anybody has been watching my episode by episode impressions, they probably know what my feelings are on this episode. Yes, I don't care, Sid. I really don't care about how OP Sid is. It's like the weakest part of this show, and I just can't stand it. It's like, that's why I was saying with the last impressions, I'm like, I'm just hoping that it just opens up with him just taking out the Zenin guy and just move on. I know you're OP. I don't need to see the guy charge up. It was kind of funny though. Like this guy's just super charging up, and this bottle rolls on the ground, and Sid's like, "Oh, okay." Like he doesn't care. But anyways, the rest of the episode pretty solid. Thanks to the spoilers from the previous. I just to get this out here, like the source material people, I don't need to hear the answer to every question I'm creating. Again, I'm somebody watching the show, never reading the source material, and I kind of want to speculate on what's to come, so I don't really need to know the answers to the questions I pose. But yes, I knew what the big monstrosity thing was going to be, because thankful to everybody that wanted to spoil it for me. It's this Millis girl that this guy that Alpha and then Sid fought in the second episode. It was the Millis girl that he was talking about when he went to die, and he had the little lock, and yeah, sure enough, this girl, once Alpha defeated her, you see that same locket. So that was who the deformed thing was. But no, I will say that Idris's fight with this particular monstrosity was really cool. My unfortunate frustration that I've had with this series, that pretty much the only animation that we get out of this entire series is that one fight with Alpha and then Sid being overpowered. It's very rare that we get to see the actual girls animated, and we at least got Idris animated. She was really cool. But yes, of course, unable to take down this beast because it had like this high regeneration, and that's when Alpha shows up and just does an OP Excalibur blast on the entire thing and lets it kind of freeze it. But what follows this is Alpha essentially telling Idris, "We're Shadow Garden and you're not going to get in our way." And I was like, okay. My big question mark that I had for it was really, like, obviously Shadow Garden's creating this very big catastrophe in this town, and so the assumption there was going to be that they were going to catch the attention of Idris and the rest of the royal knights or whatever. But it seems like she kind of allows Alpha to leave. Like, I guess because Alpha saved her life, she was willing to let her go, despite she was wanting to try to stop her. But it seems like in the background, we're going to have Idris creating her own kind of investigation team to look into the Holy Knights themselves, because she obviously sees that Zenin was a bad guy and he was a part of this Diablos cult, so she needs to look into it. Now, it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't be looking into the Shadow Garden, because, yes, Sid literally blew up half the city. Like, there's no mention of it. Afterwards, there's, like, no mention of it. It's just their sole focus is on Zenin and what he was doing. They have no cares whatsoever to the fact that what created a gigantic crater in the middle of the town, which, by the way, was really funny because, like, every single shot they showed of this crater kept changing in sizes. Like, the first shot was, like, 6 blocks, and then the second shot looked like it was, like, 3 blocks, and then this later shot looks like it's literally half the town. So I don't know, it can't make up his mind how big it wanted this crater to be from Sid. Either way, I assume that eventually they're going to be looking into the Shadow Garden. Again, it's kind of like the whole Batman concept, is Batman's the person that's taking care of the crime for the police, and then at some point they're essentially subverting the justice system incorrectly. But yes, that's when we get into the fight between Sid and Zenin, and like I said, it was super boring. I don't know why, but for some reason Sid is super boring when he's fighting, and I can't quite place it. I don't know if anybody in the comments agrees with me, or maybe you know why. It's just, it doesn't feel good. Like, it doesn't feel good watching Sid. I guess because he's never really had a problem. So my assumption is that he's never going to have a problem. So when he's fighting somebody, I'm just going, so when are you going to finish it? Like, I'm just waiting for Sid to finish it. But it was kind of cool that we at least got some sort of connection with his current mind state to what he was in his previous world. Telling this guy about how it actually feels to be an almighty person. Saying that if you borrow somebody else's power, that's not the path to almighty. And then he goes into talking about this certain somebody who pushed himself, but then realized at some point he would be no match to an atomic bomb. So apparently he realized at that point, rather than fighting to be able to withstand the atomic bomb, you become the bomb itself. So like I said, Atom-Ick. And like I said, blows up half the city. So I'm going to assume that by some miraculous happenstance, the entire area right there was cleared out before he blew it up, or he literally just massacred thousands of people, and we're just supposed to go, aha, he said atomic. The English, the Chuny English is always tough. But now this kind of wraps up to a couple scenes. Yes, like I mentioned earlier, Edith talking to these two guys and saying that they're going to start this whole investigation within the group itself, but then also pointing to this little device that she found. I don't remember them showing this device, unless it was something to do with the monstrosity. I don't even remember seeing it. I'm sure it was somewhere in the show already, but she wants to look into this little device and decipher it to figure out what its function is. And this cuts over to this girl, which I think her name's Sherry, who she's walking along, and she's got a book that happens to be on the page for that particular device. And seems like she's investigating it somehow or trying to decipher it before she bumps into Sid, who's covered in blood, because we found out that in the scene before, yes, he completely turned down Alexia, and Alexia got mad, and it turned into the, what was it, the myth of the bodiless murder, because somebody just found like a whole pool of blood on the wall, but there was no body there because obviously she got mad for him rejecting her and attacked him. I don't know, it seems to insinuate that Alexia knows. I don't know. Alexia never mentioned, I don't think she ever mentioned Sid's name when he showed up as the Shadow, because obviously it was pointing out that he was covering his face. How can you have so much power yet cover your face? So it seems to imply that his disguise was covering up who he was, but I think she still liked Sid in the end, because he was the only one that said to her, well, besides her sister, that he liked her style. Now, she did note that the Shadow Guy's ability was transited and amazing, but it was still at its core ordinary. But I don't think that she was making the connection there. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. On one end, she was making the connection, the idea that this guy's fighting just like Sid, and the idea that at his core, he's ordinary. But I think what she was getting out of Shadow is that her ordinary self, being the ordinary fencer, can eventually be this. That's why after everything happens, she goes over there, picks up the sword, and starts training again, because she knows that eventually she can mimic that and possibly get better. But again, the reason why I think it transfers over to Sid is because, again, he was the one that said that he liked her style. And that's why I think that she likes him. So even though her fiance is now disintegrated, she's like, I still want to continue this. Can we continue this? And he says, no. She should have thrown more money at him again. That would have been icing on the cake. But I guess the joke here is that she basically slices him and gets blood everywhere. But yeah, Sid leaves covered in blood and bumps into Sherry and then reaches down to her and she gets all doki doki. So apparently he's got himself a researcher to look into this device and decipher its function. The other scene that we did get was a brief scene of the Shadow Garden all meeting together, talking about how, yes, Sid basically evaporated an entire city and that it was his light, and at some point everybody will bathe in the light of their master, and briefly insinuated that Zeta was looking for some target and found it, and that I think her name's Etta or something like that. Some other girl is researching something. Have no clue what that research is. But then additionally, that there is another group calling themselves Shadow Garden that are claiming they're going to deliver death judgment, which upsets them, obviously, because somebody is using their name. But at the same time, Sid's killing massive amounts of people, or at least my assumption is that he's killing massive amounts of people. Anyways, my issues with OP Sid aside, solid episode. Not as good as the other episodes, for sure. I mean, we did get some really cool action scenes with Idis, but unfortunately, that was pretty much it. Hopefully now this whole situation is kind of put behind us. Maybe we can start jumping into the characters themselves, because again, that's what I'm kind of really waiting for. I'm waiting to get into Alpha. I'm getting into Beta, Delta, and all of them, and I really do hope that we start to do that going forward. Unless next episode is going to be getting into Sherry, which why would we start introducing a new character before we get into the old ones? But we'll see. But that's my thoughts on episode 5 of The Eminence and Shadow. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate what it does. Also, before I forget, we also have a link to our Discord down below. Make sure to join the community. Great people there to talk to. But additionally, we're starting our anime awards voting process, getting all the older seasons and stuff handled first before we get into the later season falls and the anime of the year stuff. So if you want to join in and be a part of that, we definitely welcome you guys. But with all that said, y'all take care.